Most of the time, choosing to forgive someone is what makes them forgive. No one saw coming, but Jonathan Lamb just broke years of quiet by telling the truth about Marcus Lamb's death. The official story has been the only one told for years, but now shocking new information has come to light that could change everything. What did he have to hide, and why did he decide to tell now? As word gets out, everyone is looking at Joanie Lamb. What did she feel right away? Was she shocked, angry, or feeling something else? The Lamb family used to be united in their faith, but now there is a lot of talk about them, and Marcus Lamb's legacy is in doubt. The world now knows the truth, but are they ready to hear it? This morning at 4 a.m., the love of my life and the president and founder of Daystar died. People thought Marcus Lamb's death was sad but normal for a long time. Talks of something much scarier, though, have started to come up over time. But was there more to his death than what people heard? If that's the case, why is the truth just now being told? People who watched Daystar television and the Lamb family were shocked by what Jonathan Lamb recently said. What did he really have to hide all this time? His sudden choice to speak out makes things even stranger than they were before. He had a secret that was too big for him to carry, or was he forced to tell something that powerful people wanted to stay hidden? The time frame of Marcus Lamb's death is one of the biggest riddles. Officially, it was said to be connected to problems from COVID-19, but some people don't believe it because of problems with how the information was shared. Was he really in worse shape than people thought? There are ideas that say, behind closed doors, people were working hard to control the story and make it more acceptable. Then there's the issue of power. Marcus Lamb was more than just a speaker. He was also a businessman, a leader, and a strong voice in faith-based media. Was there something more going on with his death? Some people think there were greater problems within the network, while others think outside factors may have played a part. Maybe people wanted to hurt him because he spoke out and had a big following. Anyway, what did Joanie Lamb say? People who paid close attention noticed that she controlled what she said in public. But was there more going on behind the scenes? People who were there said that everything changed when Jonathan Lamb spoke out. Was she caught off guard, or did she know this information was going to come out at some point? There might be something even bigger going on behind her quiet. One thing is for sure, this story isn't over because there are still so many questions. There are some gaps in the story, and as more information comes to light, the real reason for Marcus Lamb's death may be much stranger than anyone thought. During my last night with Marcus in the hospital, I was taking care of him. Around 3 a.m., she looked at me in this dark room. She told me, "Look what you have done to this family." I texted my mom, "I can't do this anymore." I told God, "You feel the pain of my heart. You're ruining this family." And I said, "I know, my God, you're protecting me. You'll get me out of here." That was my last night. He passes away the next day. Marcus Lamb's trip was not like any other. He started out small but became one of the most important preachers of his time. He had a huge impact on modern Christian radio and TV in ways that few people could have imagined. But behind the public picture of faith, family, and success was a story of desire, hardship, and a marriage that would be the most important part of his legacy. Lamb was born in Georgia in 1957, and his early years were marked by a strong faith. He became a preacher at a young age and quickly became known as a skilled speaker. By the time he was in his 20s, he was already famous. As a preacher, he went all over the country and gave powerful talks that captivated people. But things changed in 1982. He met Joanie. Joanie Trammell wasn't just another Christian. She shared his vision, his drive, and his unwavering dedication to sharing the message. They clicked right away, and it didn't take long for them to know they were meant to spend the rest of their lives together. They got married in 1984. What began as a relationship between two people quickly turned into a team that would change the world of Christian media. Today is a very special show because we are going to share our hearts with you. Before we start, I want to say that you and I are strong, and I believe that our marriage is better now than it has ever been. I'm deeply in love with you because you are such an angel. I love you so much. I do want to tell you something though. It was hard for Marcus and I to be married a few years ago. When I found out that he was having an emotional relationship with someone, that relationship had turned into something that wasn't right. Marcus and Joanie started Daystar television network together. It began small but has grown into one of the biggest Christian TV networks in the world. Lamb knew the power of media and how it could reach millions of people outside of church walls, while other televangelists just built organizations. With Joanie by his side, they built a stage that reached people all over the world with their message of faith and wealth. Their marriage was more than just a love story, it was what held Daystar together. Not only was Joanie Marcus's wife, she was also his co-host, business partner, and a well-known face on the network. It was impossible to deny how well they got along on screen, giving the impression of togetherness and power. At least it looked like they were living proof of their faith, not just teaching it. The couple went through hard times over the years that put their faith and their marriage to the test. When Marcus admitted to having an affair in public in 2010, it caused a scandal that put everything they had built at risk. The news shocked their fans and shook their carefully constructed image to its core. Marcus and Joanie didn't give up when things got tough. Instead, they did something unexpected. They faced the problem head on. They went in front of their church together and talked about the deception and their choice to fight for their marriage. Their public reunion was seen as proof that God can fix things that are broken. For some, it was an encouraging story of how people can change. For some, it made them wonder what had really happened behind closed doors. Even though there was trouble, Daystar kept growing, and Marcus stayed a major player in televangelism. He had an effect on people outside of the church. He spoke out about politics and social problems, often going against what most people thought. Because he was so brave, he had both devoted followers and harsh critics. This made him a controversial but undeniably powerful figure. Then everything changed. In 2021, word got out that Marcus Lamb had died. In official accounts, problems with COVID-19 were given, but as time went on, rumors began to spread. Was there more to his death than what was talked about in public? Was his impact really what it seemed to be, or were there hidden things that only now came to light? Marcus and Joanie had spent decades building a kingdom. What would happen to it now that Marcus was gone? The past and the future of the network are both heavy on Joanie, who is now in charge of Daystar. Her part has never been more important, and the choices she makes now will decide whether the power they built together stays together or if the cracks in their marriage finally break down. They put on the telethon every 6 months. There's a room full of phones and booths, and I think they call it Heart for the World. Several hundred people work there all day and just answer the phones. The people who took calls during the ton were in charge of prayer. Once in a while, when people called to give, there would be so many calls that everyone in the company had to be ready with their phones. In that case, this was one of those times. The number of calls was very high, and lo and behold, my phone rang. When I answered, it was this sweet little old lady. She's crying and telling me that she owes everything and has no money. But she does have a small amount left on her credit card, which she plans to give to Daystar because someone on the show said that if you give $1,000 today, God will give you $10,000 back. I really don't know how to describe how awful I felt at that time. That was the first time I stopped and asked myself, do I want to be a part of this? I took that card number and ran that card because something just felt very, very wrong. In the world of Christian television, the Lamb family was looked up to for years as a symbol of faith, love, and unity. Daystar was built from the ground up by Marcus and Joanie Lamb, who showed that they had a strong marriage and a common goal to spread the word. But behind the well-polished smiles on TV, the carefully planned sermons, and the public shows of love, a much darker truth was emerging. One that Jonathan Lamb had been attempting to avoid for years. As a child, Jonathan thought his dad was a great person, a preacher who lived by his words, and a dad who seemed to keep the family together even though running an empire was getting harder and harder. Though as he got older, he could see things better. He could no longer ignore the rumors that he had once thought were silly. He saw how Joanie worked and how she talked to Marcus behind closed doors. It was clear that she had a firm but gentle hold on him. When thinking about Daystar's future, there's one thing you should always keep in mind. It's about God's cloud. The cloud of God stands for God's power and presence. So if you want the gift to stay on your life, on your marriage, on your family, and on Daystar, you have to let the Holy Spirit guide you in everything you do, how you think, and what you decide. It started out as little things. Jonathan would hear his mother speaking for his father and ignoring his ideas in meetings. This shaped every choice that was made. Marcus had no choice but to do what she said. She was smart, too smart, always following him around in public while having full control when they were alone. Early on, the marriage started to show signs of weakness, but they were always covered up with fake smiles and public promises of love. Jonathan remembered the fights and the late nights when Marcus would be tired and stuck in his office, unable or unwilling to fight back. He loved his wife, but that love was holding him back. Joanie told them who they could hang out with, where their money could go, and even how to run the network. It was more like a country with Joanie as its real leader. But the night Jonathan found out his mother had betrayed him was the moment that broke his faith in her for good. There had always been whispers that Joanie wasn't really the dedicated wife she said she was. At first, Jonathan thought they were just rumors. Marcus's mother was bossy and even cunning, but she would never betray him, would she? Everything changed one night. Jonathan went to see his mom at work to get a paper for the network. He wasn't looking for anything that would imply guilt. There was nothing fishy about him, but everything fell apart when he picked up her phone, which she had left on her desk unlocked and without thinking. That was it, a message from a man he had seen on the network for years. That man had always been too close to his mother and too involved in their business. The letter was short, but it held all the things Jonathan had been trying to hide for a long time. He was shocked when she said, "I miss you. When will I see you again?" It wasn't just a night out, there was something deeper going on here.
Yes.
That very night, Jonathan talked to his mom about it. He was ready for rejection, an apology, or even tears of sorrow. Joanie didn't break, though. She didn't even move. She looked at him with a blank face and said, "You don't understand. I did what I had to do." Those words stuck with him for years. I did what I had to do. Not "I'm sorry" or "it was a mistake." I was sure of what I had to do. Get your letter from Daystar telling you that's what's going on before you do that. Are you with me? Do you get it? Today is your day off, so go home tomorrow and do what you want until 3 o'clock. Then go back to Arnold's office and read it again until you're sure you want to sign it. And if you sign it, we have to follow it too. If you don't sign it, you're no longer an officer at Daystar and you're no longer on the board. Marcus saw it but never heard. Jonathan could never bring himself to tell him. The truth would have killed him because he had already seen how much of his father's spirit Joanie had sucked out. Instead, Jonathan couldn't do anything but watch as his mother continued to play the part of the perfect wife. The dedicated woman who stood next to Marcus held his hand and wiped away crocodile tears whenever the cameras were moving. Marcus could have finally gotten away when he got sick. "Thank you so much, Lord, for bringing Jonathan into my life, the life of Joan and me, and the life of our whole family. He has been such a great son and a good Christian young man. You kept him safe, took care of him, and led him well. Thank you, Lord, for sending Susie to him. Now, Lord, here are these two wonderful grandkids. And Lord, I know Jonathan has a wonderful future ahead of him. I pray every day that your Holy Spirit will guide him. Show him how to watch, listen, and learn. Help him learn more about the Lord. Let him be strong in his bond with you, with Susie, and with his kids. Lord, and especially, Lord, along with his brood. Know that you want it. Dear Jesus, thank you." At first, the illness seemed easy to deal with, just another problem to solve. But as the weeks went by, Jonathan thought something was wrong. The way Joanie handled everything, how she planned every aspect of his father's care, seemed planned. Joanie was the first person to take charge of the story when Marcus's situation got worse, making sure that the public only heard what she wanted them to hear. After that, Marcus was gone. His death should have been a sad time for the whole family to grieve together. But Joanie didn't wait to change the past. Every news release and statement was written by her, and she made sure that Marcus's memory and her part in it were kept clean. Jonathan was horrified to see how she changed the story to erase all the flaws, weak spots, and other signs that their marriage had not been perfect. That is the only thing we did. I really felt from the Lord that I should stay strong in the role that God had called me to and not leave even though I had been through a lot of bad things. We are not telling anyone where Susie and I are right now because we don't feel safe at home. Please know that all of the proof has been given to more than just Julie Roy. As of this afternoon, they should be going over some stories that will be in the news soon. We had no idea this would be our life. For months and months we begged God to take a different path, but we have to follow through. If He says, you know what, you have to speak, it will be harder in the end. If He says, I'm calling you to do this, we have to do it. There have been hard times, but He has led us through them all and brought us so much peace. That's why I want to support you. God always sees the bigger picture even when things look bad and chaotic. He will see us through as long as we follow His rule, stand for what is right and tell the truth. I know He will. Even so, we need your thoughts because the trip has still been hard. Thanks for that. In fact, it's been a long time of pain and suffering. It hasn't been easy, but we have stayed true to what God has asked us to do. Before Marcus was buried, Joanie was already getting a tighter hold, making herself more powerful and becoming the new face of the network. She now had his father's company, his father's following, and his father's name. Jonathan didn't like her for it. His father had been killed by her long before he died. She made up a lie that was so strong that Marcus himself believed it until the very end. She was now the queen of Daystar, but there was no king to rule over her. The country was built on lies. Jonathan, on the other hand, knew the truth, and no matter how well Joanie hid the past or rewrote the story, the world would see her for what she really was one day.